All grown-ups were once children, but only few of them remember it. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I do remember a blonde child with a smile on his face, a child who loves playing with other kids, hates being alone, and just cannot sit still, who is always curious and gets excited really fast. I do remember a happy kid who was excited to light up the fire in the oven every morning before everybody wakes up to warm up the room. I remember the child who had to walk half an hour to the school every day in one of the villages in Georgia. Because at the end of the 20th century, in Georgia, people barely had any electricity. There was no public transportation, no money, and no possibility to buy a car. And even those who owned a car could hardly find the gasoline to fill it up. Along with all those memories, I also remember a single word: refugee. In Georgian, Tolvili, which was my childhood puzzle. Everybody around me, directly or indirectly, would at some point refer to me as a refugee. I remember confusion. I remember that I struggled to understand if it was something good or bad. I had a cognitive dissonance because I had an idea about myself and people around me. I knew they liked me. I knew I liked them. And I knew that I was happy. But the magic word, refugee, was making me sad and curious because people were expressing their sadness and anger when they were speaking about refugees. And I tried to observe the situations and contexts in which they were using this word. After 2 years, I changed the school and I moved to the city. New environment, new classmates, new neighbors. I started asking people about refugees. I was asking them about meaning of the word and their opinions about refugees. And the truth is that I became an internally displaced person even before I was born. I was born 25 years ago, 16 days after the Abkhazian War, which was provoked by Russia. I was supposed to be born and live in Abkhazia. But instead, I was born and grew up in other part of Georgia, where people were calling me refugee by mistake. And it was a sign that people could not accept the reality that around 300,000 people became IDP and Russian soldiers closed the roads to enter to the region. After 25 years, 20% of my country is still occupied by Russia. And I'm still considered as the other in my home country. But I'm not a child anymore. I'm not a child since August 2008, when the world was celebrating the opening of Summer Olympics. 14 years old me and my 9 years old brother were alone in the city where Russian bombs and rockets were falling from the sky. The station from where we had to take a bus to our parents didn't exist anymore. When we got there, we saw the destroyed buildings with the heavy smell of gunpowder. We couldn't understand what was happening, but I remember the feeling. It was more like an instinct, and I was telling myself, Gaga, you are the older one. It's your duty to protect your brother. I became an adult in the second. And after the moment, I'm an independent person. There are still lots of confusions and cognitive dissonances. But now, I know what IDPs and refugees stands for, and I'm sure and convinced about my decisions. After that moment, my life is dedicated to find and understand of the nature of the violence and hatred. I want to explore the possibility of resolve conflicts and make the concept of the peace something a bit more concrete. And one of these decisions was to come to Rondine. I was 20 years old when I first applied, but I was told that I was too young. I was too determined that I applied the second time, and now I'm here. I am here because I'm ready to listen the narratives from the other side. Because of the Russian occupation, we don't have chance to meet Abkhazians, to listen their stories. They cut ties and relationship between us, and they try to write a new history for Abkhazians without Georgia. And today, I shared my story with you. But there are way more faces and narratives that we have to hear. I believe that everybody's voice and story must be heard in order for people to pay more attention to them. When there is a war in any country, even really far from you, I want you to stop watching the Summer Olympics just for a while and realize that at this very moment, somebody's childhood is finishing by force, just like mine.